Butterflies and Gauchos. By February 1832, the sturdy Beagle had crossed the Atlantic and arrived in Brazil. Charles was enraptured as immense blue morpho butterflies fluttered silently around him. Monstrous anthills rose like giant cones from the rainforest floor, and brilliant birds, toucans, green parrots, and cockatiels swooped in glittering flights through the canopy. He collected specimens for his jars: an insect that looked like a stick of dry wood, a moth that could disguise itself as a scorpion, a beetle that could change its colors to match those of a poisonous fruit. In the jungles and rainforest, there was a frightening law: prey or be preyed upon. Darwin observed a long battle between a wasp and a spider, and he watched the fantastic marches of army ants. The ants mowed down anything in their path. Snakes, spiders, lizards, and chameleons attempted to flee at the first sign of an army on the march, but often they failed as the ants, with exact timing, would first break their lines into a circle and then rush in upon their victims. Swarming over a lizard hundreds of times the size of a single ant, they could devour it within an hour. Charles also saw a brutality in humans that was easily as bad as the wars between the species of the rainforest. It was not wasp against spider or ant against lizard, but human against human. It was slavery. Staying on Brazilian plantations, he encountered firsthand the cruelty of masters to slaves. He wrote, "I thank God I shall never again visit a slave country. I have seen a little boy, 6 or 7 years old, struck thrice with a horsewhip, before I could interfere, on his naked head, for having handed me a glass of water not quite clean." Fitzroy felt differently about slavery. He felt that it was justifiable. He had seen more of the world than Darwin. Perhaps he was used to it. But Darwin knew that, no matter how far he traveled, he would never get used to seeing human beings bought and sold and cruelly treated. It was evil, and he told Fitzroy so. The captain, who had a fierce temper, did not like to be contradicted. The crew had nicknamed him Hot Coffee, because he often boiled over when he was angry. He was furious now. This was Darwin and Fitzroy's first big argument. Darwin was beginning to realize that he and Fitzroy were not the perfect match, and the test was about to come as they sailed south from Brazil along the eastern coast of Argentina toward the tip of the continent of South America, a region called Patagonia. At Punta Alta, a gravelly beach on the coast of Bahia Blanca in Argentina, Darwin made one of his greatest discoveries. Near the base of a cliff, he spotted some large fossilized bones emerging from the beach rubble: a tusk, a claw turned to stone, a huge carapace, unlike any bones he had ever seen. They were immense. He and an assistant set to work with a pickaxe. The bones were encased in a mixture of red mud, gravel, and seashells. The seashells were not those of extinct creatures, but instead identical to those he saw living on the beaches and in the shallow waters. Still, the shells had their origins in prehistoric times. The clams had not died out, but continued to live to the very day that Darwin stood on that beach. Yet, the strange bones that he had uncovered clearly belonged to creatures that no longer existed. Why had these animals died out when the clams had not? Darwin realized that his eyes were perhaps the first human eyes to have ever seen these bones. In all, there were fragments from at least 6 different animals. The jawbone of one looked somewhat like that of a tree sloth he had seen in the rainforest, but this one was nearly 8 times larger than its modern relative. The bones of another were similar to those of the burrowing armadillo. Could there be a relationship between the living life form